It has been a busy couple of weeks here in the town of Cary after the town manager, Sean Stegall, resigns over financial improprieties and transparency issues. Well, today we're sitting down with the man taking over, interim town manager Russ Overton, and the road ahead as he tries to repair Cary's image and what he's doing to try to build back that trust with the community. If you're interested in long-form interviews like this, make sure you like and subscribe below. Here's our full interview with Russ Overton. All right, Russ. Well, thank you for meeting with us, first of all. I know the last few weeks probably been pretty busy for you guys, but overall, I guess, how did we get here? How did we get to this point where, I'm speaking to you now in that interim role?
Sure. Well, how I got here has only been for less than a week at this point in time, being named the interim last Monday by the council. I think how the council got here is probably a better question for them and their timing of all that led up to the events with Sean being placed on leave and then obviously him resigning last week.
Yeah. So what has been the most difficult part of this transition for you with the fallout that we've seen?
Certainly, I guess we've had a lot of records requests. We've put together a website to show all those records requests because as I understand it now, we're getting records requests of what the records requests have been. So whether you've seen it or not, Carolyn can help get you to where that information is. But we've set up a website, I think over the weekend or late last week, to show everyone what the records requests were to this point.
Yeah. Is that an effort to be more transparent with everything that we've heard?
I believe so. I think that was one of the mayor's statement that he made at the emergency meeting last Monday, was about being more transparent. And then specifically, they took action maybe about a month ago to put all their meetings live stream. So I think that seems to be something big that the council wants to work on, and that's something that I want to support them in those efforts.
Yeah. Is there anything that has surprised you through all of this? You've been with the town for a long time, but anything that has shocked you that you've seen over the last few weeks?
Well, I told staff, this is interesting. I think this is the fourth manager change that I've seen in the past 27 and a half years. I also had an interim during that time after retirement, so I'm not shocked in the sense that managers come and go. I think I've probably been surprised, like even the mayor said in his statement, of kind of some of the information that's come out at various times, because I'm not sure everyone knew everything, I suppose.
Yeah. So what's your focus now?
Focus now is obviously moving the town forward. I feel kind of it lands in two buckets. There's this state we're in right now with, there was even a period of time of not having a manager on leave. I was the deputy manager. I don't know if that was made clear or not. So until they named me the interim manager, you're kind of left in this limbo of kind of who's leading the town. But in that sense, you're moving the town forward. I've had 2 meetings with all staff basically on this. So every day, we've got police and fire and folks collecting garbage, and I think we're wrapping up leaf service. We had a snow weather event, if you will, during that time where checked in with Public Works. So for the bulk of the 1,300 employees that we have, it's business as usual. Then you've got this kind of this state that we're currently in where there's investigations by the auditor's office. There's obviously bringing in an attorney for the being supportive of the mayor and council, that they want to do an internal review. So that's not normal to Cary. Not normal to Cary is having this much media attention, I'd say, at least in my career. We've got a budget to put together and implement. We've got 2 new council members. So therefore, if you have 2 new council members, you've effectively got a new council. With that new council, especially as we get into 2026, it's to understand what their priorities are moving forward to set the budget for this year, but not only that, but for the years to come. So I feel like we're just managing a lot of kind of the unusual that's with this manager change, and then obviously anything that we're doing to run services as normal for the town.
Yeah. In the comments that we've seen online related to this, residents feel their trust has been broken because of this. What do you do to prepare the town of Cary's image after what has come out related to how leadership has handled this?
Well, I think the mayor spoke to that about trust in government and with trust with citizens needs to be gained back. I think that's one of the reasons they want to do their own internal review, if you will. I think it comes from transparency a lot. Everything we do in government's transparent. I'm a big believer of that. I think it's sharing information with everyone the same way. Our our budget process is a very transparent process. I'm not sure citizens fully understand how everything we do is transparent, and maybe that's something we can do as we share information moving forward, and all that we do, that come to council meetings, come speak out, become knowledgeable. We do a great Cary 101 with our citizens so they can come and learn town services and government. I think people are kind of surprised maybe to learn that they have this feeling that we're not transparent. And as you see with records requests, well, we have to provide them, we want to provide them. Somehow citizens maybe don't know that or understand that. So I think there's just something in good governance and helping our citizens to understand what Cary is and isn't to them. And we're more than they probably know.
You've held a number of roles in the 25 plus years that you've been here. Has anything prepared you to handle this?
I think my 51-year-old self, which was in the news release, thanks Carolyn, kind of one was shocker. It's like, how did that guy get to be 51 years old? But this is where I've kind of grown up. I know so many people in the town of Cary. I have so many friends at the town of Cary. I started for 10 years in the engineering department. My background is civil engineering, so I built projects for Cary, did project management during that time, learned supervisory skills. And a bit of an oddity with our town manager, 3 or 4, if you count an interim town managers ago, Bill Coleman, selected me and put me in place of the inspections and permits director job at the time. It's kind of a cool story at this moment in time, and then the Great Recession happened. I say it's a cool story because while my dad was a contractor, I probably didn't know a lot about inspections and permits. But the leadership then entrusted me to go to inspections and permits and be a leader of a group of people that just needed to organize themselves differently and not be the technical expert of inspections and permits. I've been to UNC School of Government classes, leadership classes, UVA, et cetera. And I have a lot of friends just around and throughout the state and other states now that you've just made friends. There's a great network of managers. And I think my 51-year-old self just has a lot of perspective of life in Cary, life in government, and working with elected officials at this point in time. And I think I draw on a lot of that experience moving forward.
I think through this story specifically, a lot of people are understanding kind of the power that a town manager has, that, it may be more than the layman may have even understood. Are you guys taking a look at the way that your position handles, issues with the town, and could that change?
Mm-hmm. We've got a great resource in the UNC School of Government. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they kind of train what government officials are, if you will, in the state of North Carolina. UVA, I believe, does it in Virginia. And so I think there's some things to learn from that. There's the ICMA, International City Council Managers Association, that I'm a member of, and also a credential manager. So I think the things that you wish to learn or put in place, whether they're in place or not, and have council learn about, are best practices in this, what we have as a mayor or council manager form of government. Obviously, they create the policy, and then we enact the policy. Everything should and is done in front of the public. As you have new council members, as not lost on me, we actually have 2 council members with 2 years of experience themselves, and then 2 brand new ones. It's how do we train them, how do they learn, and how do they work? How do we work within the roles that we both have to make sure there's checks and balances, in everything that we do.
Yeah. The mayor mentioned, the 3 big issues leading to Sean Stegall's departure. That first one, over-the-top spending and inadequate financial reporting. Will there be changes in how your position kind of handles finances after hearing something like that?
Well, they've said they want those things, and I want to cooperate with those things. I'm certain that the internal review will probably produce some recommendations, and then we'll work to enact what they are.
Are there any specifics related to that you can reveal about what Sean Stegall was spending or related to that?
I mean, I'm learning some things like you are. I think that question is best asked of the council, since he reported directly to them.
Yeah, and you've kind of touched on this already, but just to, kind of over the top of this, another one of the points that the mayor made was the lack of transparency with, not just the full council and staff and the citizens. What examples do you have of his lack of transparency, if any?
To me, possibly some things are just not sharing information with everyone. So something that we've done and they've been agreeable to over the last really 2 weeks now is that everything that we do or talk about with one another will be shared with everyone. And I just think that's a good practice, that if one council member is making a suggestion that might even have a budgetary component to it, is you bring that back in open session and let everyone vote on it. It's kind of an example of something that we should always be doing. We have rolling budgets. Rolling budgets really mean that anytime council wants to bring up something that has a budgetary expense to it that wasn't included in the budget, you can spend money throughout the course of the year. The full council just needs to vote on that, and I think that would be a practice that you make sure is in place moving forward.
The third element the mayor had made reference to was that Sean Stegall was creating an unhealthy work environment. What are you doing to try to alleviate that? Is there anything that you can specifically say that you're trying to repair as far as that work environment was concerned?
It's interesting, maybe from my perspective, is having grown up in Cary, just knowing so many people. We've had two what we call all hands, but we meet with staff and making the rounds to the various department director meetings and talking to them, answering questions, seeing what they need, seeing maybe how they feel. It's an emotional time for a lot of reasons, especially losing your leader, your boss, the manager, the CEO, and so just giving some space to have those conversations with people right now, I think, are important. And then leaning into the folks that I know and know me at this moment in time, and just seeing how they're feeling.
Yeah. Does that go a long way in trying to repair not just the town's image, but just the image internally as well?
Yeah, I probably touching on that. That's good, because you've got the external image and you've got kind of an internal image. I shared with staff that it's not normal times for Cary, and specifically because we're in the media so much. You mentioned social media. I'm trying not to follow it, trying not to look at it. There's been some very harsh comments about coworkers and telling them to stay off of it. Like, social media is going to do what social media does. We've got to do what we need to do, and I think it's just making sure people are cared for and looked after, and that most people, as they told me that I've talked to, I had a conversation with a firefighter right after this happened. He's like, we've got to go to the station. We're going to get called. We're going to go to fire. We're going to treat citizens just as we always have. So I think a lot of the work that our staff does with citizens is different than what one might think the manager or the council interacts with a citizen.
Some of the early stories I did when I started here last year were about, the property tax changes that, a lot of people were seeing that they were paying more. This news comes out and they see, the town manager improperly spending funds. I mean, how can Cary residents trust that leadership is spending their tax dollars appropriately after this?
Well, the first thing that I think they could do is be part of the budget process that we have every year. We have budget public hearings. All of our meetings are opened. Our budget documents forever, I believe, are on the website, at least several years back, and quite frankly, anyone can get any that there are. So every place that we spend money is documented in our budget. And quite frankly, as the mayor said, and I probably echo his sentiments, we're a financially sound organization. Despite what people are reading or maybe hearing or feeling, I'd say just come be part of what we're doing and learn, and maybe there's a way that we can be even more transparent with them this year.
Do you feel people are going to take that well, that you say you're a financially sound organization when we're hearing about these issues with, spending on land that was kind of improper at best, and, just seeing the way that all of this has transpired? I mean, people have issue with the $200,000 severance that Mr. Stegall got, even though it is a part of the contract. Do you think people will accept what you're saying, that you guys are financially sound, when they see, improper spending?
Well, I'd hope they'd verify and not just trust, would be what I would say. And by verify, come ask questions, come speak out at council meetings. I think the records request, now that we have all of that information on our website, is go look at what we've shared with everyone else and maybe draw your own conclusions. And hopefully the state auditors, they said when they're done, they'll release a report. We're supportive of whatever they release, and whatever they find, we'll take action to do if they find something that we need to do. Then you have the same thing with our investigation and review that's going to be done by the attorney. So I think there'll be enough points, but at the same time, to your point, it's not earned quickly. It'll be over time. So hopefully they'll come in and be part of neighborhood meetings and district meetings and all of these things that we'll have. And I think it's important to council in the actions that they show for their constituents. That's how you earn back that trust.
I think a lot of the questions that we've got, and maybe it's a misunderstanding of how, the contracts work, but that severance, I think, is really sticking with a lot of people. That, 6 months severance of close to $200,000 is a lot to a regular citizen. We've had that question kind of answered about how the contract works, but your contract, does it include a severance like that?
So I don't have a contract.
Because you're interim?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If you were to take over, I would imagine it would have some sort of language in there. Do you think that's proper to have that kind of language?
I think the industry kind of there's a standard in that. Y'all can go look for yourselves and check with the ICMA group or otherwise, but I just know that's an industry practice, and I think it's just something that managers do. Whether or not it's needed in the future or not would be a question for the council. I just know you could probably go look at just about any contract in North Carolina and probably see some similar version of that of appointed positions.
Right. And I know it's still very early in the process of that internal investigation, the auditor's investigation. I mean, heck, you've only been in this position for a week, you said.
Less than a week.
Right. So
last Monday at 5 p.m.
There we go. So we're nearing a week by the time this airs. But anything you've learned so far, from a review internally that could prevent this from happening again? Something that you could say to citizens that you're looking into to make sure that there's not this kind of impropriety again?
Sure. I think maybe the biggest thing that comes to mind is just managing expectations, council members in their appointed positions, myself and the staff that works, for Cary, and then looking at our policies and procedures, maybe taking a detailed review of things that could be put in place to ensure these things don't happen again.
Yeah, not to say that any policies would change, but are there policies that you've seen that you're like, hey, we need to take a second look at this specific thing just to see if there's, some way to make it more efficient or better?
Sure. I know something council has briefly mentioned, but is thinking about delegated authority, who signs what contract, and possibly reporting structure back to council. I mean, there's easy ways to report back on contracts that are signed. All the contracts that are signed are typically with money that's put forth in the budget. So if there just needs to be transparency on, hey, we signed a contract this week, last month, whenever, that information is technically available, but maybe you report on it somehow.
Yeah. Obviously we know that Mr. Stegall has left his position. Should we anticipate seeing any more departures from the town of Cary as a result of this?
I hope not. None that I'm aware of. And if it's anything related to council, that's probably a good question to ask of them.
Yeah. And then probably my last question here, but the internal review, any sort of ETA when residents could expect to see results of that?
The mayor mentioned months. I think that's probably fair to say, and he also said as long as it takes. I'm not as familiar with how long the state auditor's office takes on those types of things, but I think it needs to be thorough enough to answer all the questions that the citizens are asking and spend the amount of time to take that you get there.
Yeah. And of course, giving me the time to do this, I really appreciate, but I want to make sure, if there's anything else that you want to mention to residents about this entire situation, whether it's, what we've learned so far, all the way through to your plans moving forward, and just to give you the last word.
Sure. No, I just hate that we're all going through this. I really feel for our employees that could be impacted or family members that could impact. We're doing so many great things in Cary. You all have, through the years, I think you mentioned it early, but I've done so many stories on all the great things that we're doing. We're getting ready to open 2 new parking decks in downtown Cary. It's the holiday season. I know for me and my family, we like driving around downtown and seeing all the Christmas lights and holiday lights. So I hope some people might just hopefully not judge us by our worst day and look at the bulk of the entirety of what Cary is, and maybe give us a little grace in that, and then come follow everything we're doing. Come to council meeting. Get involved in your government. That's what I would ask people to do.
Perfect. All right, Mr. Overton, I appreciate you making the time.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah,
No.
appreciate you.